Hey, you're muted, friend.
Okay, I'm unmuted now, right?
You are, you are.
All right, that's what's up. My show producer wanted to silence me now.
Don't do my that's my real sister. I fight about that. No.
Love you, Derica. Oh man. So quickly before we go into the show, man, I gotta tell you this, but boy, fire bun apple.
Fire bun apple.
Fire bun apple. It never fails. Every
What
time
that
they come out
mean?
with a new phone, literally
Oh,
the day they come out with that new phone, your old phones go.
oh, I
I'm
heard that
setting.
about y'all crappy
Yeah,
phones.
man, they be setting us up for the kill. So like, I'm spamming everybody or whatever. But normally how I spam them is quick, like whap whap whap.
Hmm.
1 week from the next. Now now it's taking like forever for me to do it, man. So yeah, Firebun Apple, man, they got a real serious marketing plan that happens that
What
your old
fire
phones
pond
fail.
is that some Caribbean thing I don't know about? Because what
Yeah,
is
yeah,
that?
yeah. Fire for that.
Fire for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like we bun it out. You know what I mean? We bun it out. Welcome to That Part Podcast. I know I started the show complaining. But we are glad to be with you here today at That Part Podcast, of course. My name is Papa Keith, affectionately known as Keith Walcott. And I'm one of your hosts here, also the founder of Just Vote Period, where we involve more of our youth in democracy and get them registered to vote, make voting very sexy and all that good stuff. My amazing co-host is the one and only Janae Tate. She is the founder, CEO of Hilo News, Hyperlocal News. This is the way us millennials and I don't even know what I am.
You
Gen
are a Gen
X.
Xer.
This is the
Yes,
way millennials and Gen Xers get our news here in South Florida.
that
All right.
part.
For real, for real. So she kind of like gets the news and the important stuff that we need and breaks it down in a way that we can digest it. And this show is I guess, a link to that as well, because that's what we do here at That Part Podcast. We take boring political stuff and make it really fun
Not
and cool.
boring.
Some of it do, though.
I mean, I'm just a government and
Nerd.
political junkie nerd. If you want to honestly junkie, but yeah,
You rather
you're
be
right.
a nerd or a junkie? Which one?
You know what? I'd rather be a nerd. You're right. I don't. You're right. For
Nerds
the
don't be
everyday
foaming at the mouth.
I know, right? That part. For the everyday person, it could be, boring or a lot. So the fact that
Yeah,
we have this platform and breaking it down is like, it's a treat for the community. This is what we do.
definitely. We glad to do it, man. So how you doing, JT? I mean, I gave my little blurb to jump off the show. How you feeling today?
I'm doing good. I mean, I'm literally straight out of my workout class. And so shout out to I Can Fitness. I've been working out at the Lauderhill location. They have a Miami Gardens location. And I started saying, like, when I'm in Miami, I'm going to work out. I want to keep that routine of health and wellness or whatever. So when I'm home, so yeah, y'all going to see me jumping around and running around, trying to keep this body tight, body yaddy yaddy, And so but also too, I'm getting older. So I'm like, health and wellness has to be like just a part, like eating, breathing, sleeping, like it has to just be something that is a part of what I do. And so, yeah, I'm not as glammed up as I would like to be, but I'm here and I got my workout clothes on and I'm feeling good and feeling pumped. So shout out to Coach Dietrich Harrington or Coach D out there, founder of I Can Fitness, getting me right all week. And I've been loving it.
Well, I could say this if I may. You're allowed to have a day off the way you came through the last episode. IJS. I'm just saying you came through, coming through.
I was dressed up a little bit. I was just like, oh, thank you, Jessica Steele, my girl. Yeah. So, but y'all already know what the hats is starting to become one of my signature looks too. Like it's like
I can't say nothing about that. That's my signature look too.
So you
I have
get
one
it,
sitting
right?
right up here. Look. It's just when I be having the headphones on, but
Oh, so you can't do it to be too much on your head. Yeah.
I be with my hats though.
I'm actually wearing my Black Wall Street hat from when I was in Tulsa a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and shout out to the State of Black Food and Chef Culture and Chef Chad Cherry and his wife. So while I was there, I got me some merch and definitely made sure I supported the Black-owned businesses. So yeah, I really love this hat. Oh, the green screen, but yeah,
that's what's up. Well, this hat here is Born Goated. It's a new line that my friend Kenyatta came up with. He has T-shirts, caps, and really cool gear. It's called Born Goated. Like when you just born, you know, Kenyatta.
Okay. I gotta check it out. You know, we support Black-owned, we support local.
Yeah,
so
and he just launched it, Born Goated.
Oh, okay.
So go check it out. All right. So it was a nice chit chat. You want to bring on our guest?
No, definitely. As we were talking about breaking down politics and making it plain for our audience, like tonight's guest is definitely, in that same vein, in that same energy. And I'm really excited to have him on tonight.
I've heard so much good things about this guy. And, as we see all the craziness that's happening in the world and in politics, as it may be, even more and more, I'm sure we're looking towards some fresh faces, some new ideas, some people who just not going to be like the old people.
That's why I was excited to have this interview, because I'm like, oh, this is a new name, a new face. Like, I want to know what he's about.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. So let's get right to it. Today, our guest, is Robin Peguero, if I'm saying that correctly. He's a first-generation American, the son of a Dominican and Ecuadorian immigrants who made their home right here in South Florida. Robin grew up in Hialeah, watching his parents serve their country and community while working hard to build a better life for their family. He went on to become a homicide prosecutor and later served as an investigator in Congress, where he worked on exposing those responsible for the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Now, Robin is running for Congress in Florida's 27th district, hoping to bring his South Florida story and his commitment to service to Washington. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our guest, the one and only Mr. Robin Peguero.
Yay!
Thank you so much for having me.
That's what's up. Did I butcher your name or did I get it right, sir?
You got it perfect. Peguero. Perfectly.
Peguero. So I put that little Peguero.
A little accent on
it. Glad to have you on. Real quick before Janae shoots out the first question to you, we have a common person that's a huge fan of yours. He goes by the name of Robert Dempster. Spoke to him today, man. He's the one who actually really told me about you. He's like, yo, you got to look at this guy. You got to check him out and stuff like that. So I did my little research and. So here we are. And I reached out to you and I told you we'd have this opportunity and thank you for making the time to do it.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. And Robin, for context, just to get like the audience, get, I guess, a center or frame of reference, who currently holds the seat that you're running for, just so they can have like a point of reference?
Yeah, the Republican incumbent, her name is Maria Elvira Salazar.
Oh, her seat. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. So I'm going to kick it off with the first question. And Robin, you're the only Hispanic Democrat in this race, and Miami-Dade is nearly 70% Hispanic. How do your Ecuadorian and Dominican roots and being Afro-Latino shape the way you connect with voters in this district?
Yeah, so I grew up here. I grew up in Hialeah, and I grew up working class. And I think that's what's important, right? Because right now, the people in power, they're paying attention to billionaires. They're paying attention to corporations. They're giving them huge tax giveaways, tax buyouts and breaks, and not the middle class that is struggling right now, right? With rising costs on all fronts. And so having that experience of having grown up, knowing what it's like living paycheck to paycheck, knowing what it's like seeing my parents go off to work, both of them working while I was at home studying, trying to, advance myself. That's a story that I know so many families are experiencing across South Florida. So just as you guys mentioned, my parents, they were immigrants to this country. And the first thing they did when they got here, they didn't know each other. They had the same thought independently was, let's join the army. Let's serve this new country. Let's show this country that we want to be here. And that's where they met. That's where they fell in love. That's where they had my sister and me. And when they finished their service, my father went on to become a teacher. He taught Spanish in the Miami-Dade public schools. My mom went on to become a mail carrier in the U.S. Postal Service, both proud union members, both folks who worked really hard and wanted so much to provide a better life for their kids, right? For us to be able to do better than they could. And that's what everybody wants. They just want to be able to provide for their kids. They want home ownership, right? They want the ability to advance in this country. And we're not seeing that right now. And it's because of the president's policies, the tariffs, the taking away people's health care, not giving tax breaks to the middle class and instead for the billionaires and corporations. And my opponent, Maria Salazar, she's completely voting in complete lockstep with the president. She's not focusing on regular people either. So that's why I decided to run.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Before politics, you built a career as a prosecutor. How do you think that experience helps prepare you for challenges of leadership in Congress?
So that role right out of law school, I wanted so much to serve my community. At every point in my career, I've always only chosen public service. And that's because of the example that my parents set when they first came to this country. So as a prosecutor, I was more naturally inclined to do public defense, actually. I was the president of my public defender organization in law school. And it's because I'm a progressive person, I want to fight for the little guy. And I know that the system ensnares a lot of people who look like me, right, have the same skin color as me, have the same last names and speak the same language at home as I did with my parents, right? Black and brown people make up the vast majority of the people that become part of the criminal justice system. And I knew I wanted to help reform that. But I learned really quickly in law school, all of the power in our system is in the prosecutor's hands. And I thought, why would I go maybe, be on the public defender side and try to ask another kid right out of law school to do the right thing when I could be that kid to just do the right thing? And so for 7 years being a homicide prosecutor, I was able to really look out for the truth, right? Look out for defendants' rights, look out if an officer was violating someone's constitutional rights to be able to dismiss the case. I prosecuted people who hurt people in our community, right? Because a lot of the folks who are victims of crime are going to be who we live with, right? In our community. And I wanted to advocate for victims, people whose sons and daughters were being killed and gunned down by gun violence, right? But also be able to dismiss cases and get rid of them if there was something wrong with them, if the person wasn't guilty, if we couldn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, and go after officers, right? Most of officers are great. They're good people. They're doing their jobs. Some, right, are using unreasonable force. Some are violating defendants' rights. And I was able to prosecute both people who were violent as well as some officers who violated their oath of office. And so it just left me knowing nobody is above the law. It's why I ultimately went on to serve on the January 6th committee, because not even the president is above the law. And that's what I loved about being a prosecutor. And that same commitment to the rule of law, to democracy, is what I want to take to Congress.
I love it. And, I'm switching gears a little bit. And this is just something that I would like to know as just a voter and someone who's been watching the political landscape when it comes to ICE and deportations. And as we know that, Hispanic or Latinx community has been hit hard, when it comes to that. I would love to know your views on, what's been going on in the community. And, if elected, what would you do to, address this matter that's going on, in DC, under the leadership of President Trump?
Yeah. So people in our community are getting hurt and victimized by this president and by ICE. Again, I'm a big proponent of the rule of law. And what's happening now is that we're seeing our neighbors, our friends, our colleagues, people who have been a part of this country, sometimes for decades, who have American-born children, people who are paying their taxes, people who are contributing to our economy. Vast majority of them, over 80, 85, 90% of them, have zero criminal record, and they're being swept up in unmarked vans by ICE officials who refuse to identify themselves. They were, up until recently, being thrown into alligator Alcatraz, into cages. And we had not even just folks who were undocumented in there. We had U.S. citizens, we had veterans, we had even a minor thrown in there the other day because this administration isn't being smart about any of this, right? They're just sweeping up anybody and everybody. And you want to talk about rising prices. What will happen to our agricultural sector? What will happen to the prices of our groceries if we're hollowing out those sectors with, by deporting all of these folks who have propped up our economy and have helped us and helped this country move forward. Again, these are folks who have no criminal record. And so what I want to do, which the Congresswoman is not at all doing, is I want to speak up for them. I want to make sure that their TPS, the people who fled from violent dictatorships, that they get to stay, that they get to have their stay extended, right? That they don't get sent back to countries like Venezuela, where the president says it's so dangerous over there that I get to kill, traffickants, drug traffickants out in the seas. Without due process, by the way. It's so dangerous we get to do that because that country is being run by those narco traffickants. But it's not dangerous enough that we should send them back, right? That they don't, our neighbors and colleagues who are here, our Venezuelan American friends, they can go back, that it's safe to go back. That sort of doublespeak doesn't make any sense to me. And the Congresswoman is letting it go by without a word. She's calling Trump so this is the height of ridiculousness. She calls President Trump, she says he's like Lincoln. She says he will do for immigration what Lincoln did for slavery. Now, that is an affront to all of us, especially as Black people, having ancestors who were slaves, to call, one of the best American president we ever had, to compare it to this man who is doing the exact opposite. He's not liberating or freeing anybody. He's throwing people, good, hardworking, tax-paying people, in shackles and in cages. And the Congresswoman is not only praising him for it. The other day, she went to go and tour Alligator Alcatraz, and she was like, these cages, she kept using the word cages, which is absolutely accurate, but not even flinching while saying it like it's normal. I saw the people in cages. They were great. And I asked them, how are the conditions? And they told me pretty good. And she's like, I was happy. They were pretty good. Human beings in cages being pretty good. And then she mentions, and they have a little spot for grass there so they can exercise, as if these people are animals, right? Wow. She has absolutely no regard for these folks, for human beings. And we don't need that in Congress. We need somebody who's going to stand up for human beings, for our community. And that's what I'm getting ready and willing to do when I win.
Wow.
I like that. He said, when I win. You go, Robin. All right. So speak it into existence.
I know. Put it out there.
Miami's majority Hispanic, but a lot of Hispanic voters here lean Republican. As a Democrat, how do you plan to connect with them and earn their support? Do you even see that as an obstacle or an opportunity?
Definitely an opportunity. I'm telling these folks, you were betrayed, you were lied to, right? A lot of them held their nose, voted for this president, voted for Salazar, because they thought they were going to focus on the economy, right? They were right. Inflation was high. Prices were high. The middle class was being attacked on all fronts. And too often, people in power, again, are benefiting corporations and billionaires, right? And so that's what they were supposed to focus on. That's not at all what they're doing. Not only aren't they focusing on that, they're taking away people's health care, right? The Congresswoman voted in this big, ugly bill. And it will strip 100,000 people in my district, in my community, of their Affordable Care Act, of their Medicare, of their Medicaid, right? At a time already when they're facing this, onslaught of costs and prices, they're going to have their health care taken away on top of it. And all of it was just so it can give tax breaks to corporations and to billionaires. So I tell them, they're not focusing on what, you wanted them to focus on. Is your life better now, 9 months later, when a price of a car, because of the tariffs that the president is one day on, one day off, you don't know if it's going to be $15,000 more expensive tomorrow versus today? That's insanity, right? So we got to vote out these bums because they're not focusing on what matters. And the other thing I say is that, maybe some folks, again, they wanted a secure border. They wanted maybe the deportation of violent criminals, right? People who harm our community. As a prosecutor, that makes sense to me, right? You kill someone, you've lost the privilege to be in this country. But that is not what is happening at all. There are people who are having their privileges or TPS being stripped. And again, there are folks with no criminal history being swept up into ICE vans. So I think they're starting to realize this is not at all what I voted for. And who's to blame? The Republicans. They have the House, they have the Senate, they have the White House. And we have a Congresswoman who is completely voting in lockstep with the president. Never even, her vote is so valuable in a House that's closely divided. She could get something out of that vote. She could tell the president, hey, I'll give you the vote on the big, ugly bill, but you got to stop deporting my neighbors and my community, right? Or you got to, provide some funding, right, for this area. She likes to tout funding that comes to the district. She votes against that funding time and time again. So I just had a press conference on Monday because, again, she came with this $4.4 million check for Cutler Bay saying, look what I got you guys. It's all lies. She voted twice against it. It was in 2022. And if she got her way, we wouldn't have gotten that money. It was the Democrats right? And then signed by President Biden at the time that allowed us to get that money. So she needs to be straight with the people. She's lying to them. She's talking out of both sides of her mouth. I'm not going to do that when I'm congressman. No, I'm going to call her out for it.
I like it. You shoot from the hip, Robin.
Gotta be straightforward, right? That's
you definitely Miami bred.
That's how we do it down here. Yeah.
Yeah. Robin, my next question is, you're a prosecutor, that's part of your career and what you've done over the years. But, some people see that as a strength. Some people may see that as a weakness or negative. What do you say to people who think that way about that, especially someone going into office and they may see that as not as the best thing? What do you say to that?
Yeah, I say, look, we need Black and Latino people in all positions of power, right? We need a seat at the table. This is the system we have. If we're going to reform it, we need people who are on all sides. And as I mentioned, in our system, the prosecutor has so much power, incredible power. And I just didn't feel like I should cede that to folks who already were naturally either more conservative, who don't understand the plight of what it is like to grow up as a minority in this country. And I had the opportunity as a prosecutor to change so many minds on my end. I remember having fights within the prosecutor's office, counseling folks to think about alternatives to jail, right? Programs, prevention programs, drug court, what have you. And I got to, really influence a lot of them to see it that way. Or when they wanted to talk ill of defendants, right? And again, when you do something really, really terrible, you hurt a community, you kill a person, as I was a homicide prosecutor, so I was prosecuting the most serious crimes, you deserve to be punished, right? But we still shouldn't treat you like you're not a human being, right? We shouldn't talk about you as if you're subhuman. People make mistakes in their lives and they need to be held to account for it, but it doesn't mean that they stop losing their humanity. And so on that side, again, I was able to tell people, don't say that, don't call them this, don't say they're that, right? They're still human beings. We're going to do our jobs. We're going to protect victims and we're going to hold people accountable, but we're going to do it respectfully. We're not going to celebrate when we get a conviction. We can feel satisfaction in our job, but it's a sad thing all around. It's sad for the defendant's family, and it's sad that somebody has to lose their freedom. So we're not going to jump up and down. When I was a supervisor, I told my attorneys, you don't smile, you don't laugh, you don't cheer. You walk out of the courtroom, your head held high that you did a good job, and you keep plugging away, right? So I want people to know, that's why I became a prosecutor. I really, really wanted to do good. I wanted to serve my community, and I was able to do that for 7 years, and I'm so proud of the work I was able to do.
Thank you for answering that.
You had another question, right, T?
No, I thought we were going to, back and forth, but I can ask my next question.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Robin, what makes you think you're the better fit for the district over Maria Elvira Salazar?
Yeah.
No, sorry. What do you think makes you the better fit for the district over Maria?
Yeah, she's forgotten where she came from. She's hiding from everybody. She's not having town halls. And even in the Republican parts of the district, she's afraid of taking any questions. She has these staged photo ops is all she's able to do because she knows that there might be a viral moment, or if somebody asking her, why the heck haven't you released the Epstein files, right? Why are you, they're about to shut down the government, right? They're going to try to find a way to blame it on Democrats, even though, again, they are in charge of every single branch of government. Like, we got to hold them accountable at some point, right? We can't keep saving them, being the adults in the room, saying, no, we're going to compromise, right? Because, the foxes, they're the ones guarding the hen house, right? And so she's completely lost touch with what it means to be a spokesperson, to be a representative of this community. One example, FP&L. Our electricity bills already super high, obviously, as with everything else, unfortunately, climbing. And then they have the gall, this monopoly, state monopoly, right, favored by the government they're trying to introduce the largest rate hikes in the history of this whole state at this time when we're already suffering with super high prices. And what has Salazar said? Zero words about it. And we know she's going to do that because, number one, she's already voting to give these corporations a big tax break. But number two, she's actually in the top 10 of the GOP House members in terms of how much money they get from FP&L lobbyists, right? So they are putting money in her coffers. They're what keep her in her position of power. So who's she going to look out for, right? Consumers like us who are suffering, or the corporations that are keeping her in Washington? going to be the corporations. And so we need somebody who's going to not be bought by those corporations, somebody who remembers, because he's still living it, what it's like to, live paycheck to paycheck, to have a working class lifestyle, to know what it's like to struggle. And that's how you know that person will focus on the community, right? That won't sell out. I grew up in public schools, went to public schools my whole life here in Florida. So that's another thing. You want somebody who's going to invest in public education, somebody who was, made by public education, right? Who was able to go off to college and then to law school by virtue of the fact that I worked really hard in public schools. And I know that all we need is more resources to help people get a leg up, to just give us an opportunity to achieve that American dream. So I think I'm much more aligned with the district than Salazar is anymore.
I want to do a little follow up on that too, because you seem like a fighter for sure, Robin. So I understand why you're here, but I want to understand if you have embraced the challenges of going up against a machine, like you just said. Just like wow, I'm really doing this.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through that thought process, because it takes a lot to do this, right? Yeah. I had a little taste. Where you're headed is a whole different level of complexities and energy and money and all these things that you're going to really need to fight that, what we call machine. So can you dive into that a little bit, how you plan on really dissecting it, and what was your thought process in saying, I'm going to do this, but if I'm going to do this, obviously I'm a fighter and I want to win. So,
of course,
strategy.
Absolutely.
I wanted to know that too, so I'm glad you asked. Like, how are you going to flip this seat?
This isn't a vanity project, right? I'm not asking people, because I've gotten donations from now over 2,000 unique donors in the 2 months and a half that I've been running. This means that I'm getting small dollar donations from people across the country. I was able to raise $100,000 in my first 24 hours, and I was really proud of that. And we're now coming up on the end of my first quarter, and we're just adding on to that, getting little bits of support from people who are inspired by my January 6th service, people who know that we need to flip the house and that people like Congresswoman Salazar are not working for us, right? So how are we going to do it, right? She will do anything to hold on to this seat, and the Republicans are going to invest so much of their money, right? Their dark money, corporate money. They're just going to be influx, right? But what we can do is we're going to have the power of people behind us. With little donations from people who want to make a difference, that's going to push us forward. And she's absolutely vulnerable. You can just watch it in her interviews. She's on the defensive. So this district, it's an R+6 district. Okay. So it isn't, there's some ground there to make up, but we saw in the special elections up in Northern Florida, 2 super conservative districts, the Democrats still lost. But it swung toward the Democrat by 15 points in super, super red areas, which this is not. This is a toss-up district. We had a Democrat here in 2018. That was the midterm election for Trump's first term. And what are we right now? We're in the midterm election for Trump's second term. We're going to have a Democrat in there again. And if we're looking at movement, 15-point movement, that's enough to kick her out. People are fed up. They're tired. They want a check in Washington. Even folks who support the president are thinking this is way too much. Someone needs to temper his wildest impulses, right? We need a House that's under Democratic control, and it starts with phonies, like getting rid of phonies like Maria Salazar. So I'm super optimistic. I am a Hispanic candidate who's fluent in Spanish, and I've been on Spanish media so much since I announced on Telemundo and on Venezuelan web series and podcasts and radio. Because what happens is they only hear one side of the story, right? And she goes on there and she lies. And so they're ready and happy and willing to have the other side, as long as we have a messenger who is authentic, right? Who grew up the experience, grew up in Hialeah, grew up Latino, has parents who came here who are immigrants and can speak to the power of immigrants, how hard we work, how important we are to this country. I want to galvanize also the Black vote in my area. I want people to look at me and see themselves reflected, right? As a candidate who has gone through, has grown up in Miami with so many different identities, right? But I think it's made me stronger. It's made me more empathetic, and it makes me relate to people. And that's what I want. I think that with that movement, we're easily going to be able to get rid of her and have change in Miami.
And Robin, also too, just for more like context, can you let us know some of the neighborhoods that your district encompasses?
Yeah, absolutely. We got Brickell, we got some of downtown. That's the northern area. And then we start going south. We got Key Biscayne, Coral Gables, Coconut Grove. What else we got? Go all the way down. We got Pinecrest, Kendall, down to all the way to Cutler Bay, South Miami, West Miami. So those are some of the neighborhoods that are part of the district.
Gotcha.
Those are some big money district areas too, man.
That's right. We're gonna raise a lot of money. This is gonna be a competitive race. I want people nationally to start paying attention. Thankfully, having worked in Congress before, I was chief of staff for a member of Congress, a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, Glenn Ivey. He's been so supportive and so helpful. So I've been chatting with congressmen behind the scenes, chatting with national groups. I'm letting them know they got to keep their eye on Miami, right? I don't want people to turn their backs on Miami, think the Democrats have no shot here, that this isn't a swing area anymore. Miami has voted for Democrats in every single presidential election except for the last one, right? That was the first time, and they're starting to swing back because they're realizing how disastrous the president's policies are.
Well, that's from your mouth to God's ear, because Lord knows we've had on quite a few people discussing the fact that the Democratic Party kind of turned their back, so to speak, on us during the presidential election that just happened last November. So, hopefully they do look at Florida as a swing state again, as something that should be a priority. It always was a priority, always should be a priority. So I couldn't wrap my head around why, that would happen. But, especially for your sake and what you're trying to do, let's hope that, that they make a turnaround on that.
Yeah, I think, you just need candidates who are going to excite people, who's energetic, who's younger, right? We're worried about folks dying in office, 80, 90 years old. And, we're grateful, right, to the leaders who came before us. But if we want to have young people vote, we need people who are our same age out there, being outspoken. And so I'm going to keep pushing hard. I'm going to keep, doing these appearances, going out in the community, having the town halls and listening to the voters like the Congresswoman isn't. And I think people got to watch Miami, because we're going to be shocking the world in 2026.
Gotcha.
So I have a little loaded question. So what percentage of your district is Hispanic and what percentage of it is Black?
Yeah, we're getting upwards of, when we get to the general elections, somewhere in the vicinity of probably like 80%, because it's about 74% Latino. And then we got a little bit less than the national average in terms of African American or Black. It's about, but we're getting upwards of 80%, right? Gotcha. So that's the vast majority of folks, right, who need to be represented. This district certainly has never had a Black Latino and Afro-Latino represented before. So that would be history if they were to elect me. And in the Democratic primary also, big, obviously, as we know, the Black community, we're a big component of the Democratic Party, Black women in particular, always, reliable, supporters of ours. So we got to pay attention to Black women. We got to have them lead our party, right? Because again, they've been the most faithful, and you don't turn your back on people who have always been there in your corner. And so I want to make sure that I'm representing them, that I'm talking to them, that I'm including them. They're telling me about what's going on in the community. I would love to have, liaisons in every community in this district, so that they can just text me and let me know, hey, we're having this barbecue, we're having this event, right? I grew up in the church, so I want to go to, as many church services as possible. My father would love that. He's a preacher now. After in retirement, he guest preaches. And so all I want to do is be a part of the community as much as possible, be out there, not in a room, sort of just dialing away for money, but actually engaging with folks. And so I'm excited to get out there in the campaign trail. And I'd love to have people join me and help me out.
So I was laying a foundation for this part. Right, so Robin, you from Hialeah, right? You from Miami. We gonna keep it Miami, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it, right? We know the relationship between the Hispanic and Black community in Miami, right? So we ain't got to go into all of that, right? Sometimes we love each other, sometimes it's not so great. The thing that we have been seeing, especially as Black Miamians, and when we see the I will vote for Donald Trump and the people in the Hispanic Republicans that went so hard for him, and then on the inverse of that, and all of these executive orders and things that President Trump has, put out there that negatively affected this community. To me, there's like, And I feel like you could have this conversation because I feel like you play in both worlds, and I actually really respect and love the fact that you are claiming both, Black and Hispanic. Robin, what y'all talking about? What y'all talking about in the community? Because a big part of why we got people like Congresswoman Salazar is because of the Hispanic Republican vote in Miami-Dade County that voted for people like this, that voted for President Trump, and that they voted against their own best interest and self-interest. What are you guys saying now within your community? Is there a come to Jesus moment, or is the community saying, "Yo, we made a mistake. We thought it was sweet over here, but we actually are not benefiting in the way that we thought we would." To me, associating with whiteness. What are you saying within the community? I would love to know that, and then also too, just to double on that, or like to follow up on that, to like let us know, like, what are you doing to reach on the other side of the aisle for those people who voted in that way because they were so staunch and so for it. But I feel like you could give us a little bit of inside baseball, because we trying to figure out, because we with y'all, we've been with y'all shooting in the gym. Absolutely. Like we stand on the civil rights line with y'all, and it kind of felt like the Hispanic community turned their backs on us. So I want to know what y'all talking about. What y'all talking about at the kitchen?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what I'm hearing, people have buyer's remorse, right? There's a story every day in the Miami Herald about a family being torn apart. They're crying. They're saying, "I voted for Trump, and my husband, my daughter, whoever is being deported," right? And unfortunately, right, it was a little bit of I didn't think it would affect us, right? I think there's something that goes on with the president where he says a bunch of BS, and people, for whatever reason, don't believe him. They think he isn't being serious, that he's joking around. He has, Teflon Don, I guess, is what he's kind of known as. He has this thing where, he says crazy things and people think, oh, only half of it is true. And now they're waking up and realizing, no, when they speak, listen, right? He's showing you who he is. And unfortunately, no, we had to have an election, another election, for people to experience that and realize that. But they have buyer's remorse. They are realizing it. That they are, they're not immune, right? That this president wasn't going to protect them, that he has this worldview, him and Stephen Miller in the White House, that this is a nation that isn't bound by an idea. Like, that's what makes us Americans, right? It's that we all agree with democracy and freedom and equality. We all come from different parts, but we all believe the same things. We're the first country to be founded not around a national identity, but around a beautiful idea that we hold true. He thinks it's still, or it should be, around a single race or ethnicity, right? And they're trying to remake this country to get rid of folks who don't fit into that story. And so that's what we're talking about. That's what I'm telling them, right? And you said, how do I reach out to them? Not by shaming them, right? People get defensive, right? If you tell them they, did the wrong thing. Because ultimately what I think is that he lied. He betrayed them, right? He said, again, that he was going to focus on the economy from day one. He said on day one, prices are going to go down. No, they're way up, right? He said on day one, we're going to end all the wars, right? Ukraine and Gaza. Of course, those are still raging, right? The man is a pathological liar. People are realizing it. And I think that, when you look at the polls, you saw that immigration, he was polling, it was his top issue, right? And you saw the Latinos even polling very much in favor of him. And then they swung the last election. They've regressed back to the mean. All the polls are showing that Latinos are back to where they were before, that immigration is a horrible issue for him, that he's underwater. And so people really are starting to wake up to that fact. And I'm hoping that my candidacy can help sort of, bring people together, right? Because it's okay that you may have voted for him in the past. We have the opportunity now to limit the damage in his last 2 years of his presidency. We want your vote, right? We don't want you to either stay home or feel jaded or feel upset. Like, you can still do something about it, because the moment that we feel like we can't, we're going to fade even more into authoritarianism. And we got a democracy that we got to fight for. We got to fight for this country, because I love this country and I believe in it. It's led to so many opportunities for me. What happens here, what happened to me going to college and law school would never have been possible if my parents stayed in their really, really poor towns in Ecuador and the Dominican Republic. So I know this country is worth fighting for. And I think we can get people to all agree on that. And we're going to see, as I said, a sea change in Miami come in 2026.
Thank you, Robert.
That's what's up. Yeah, that was dope. What are the main issues that are driving your campaign, and how do they directly impact the people of Miami-Dade?
Affordability, affordability, affordability. People's pocketbooks are what's most important to me, because everything else is kind of peripheral if you can't survive. If you can't feed yourself and your family, if you don't have a roof over your head, if you don't have medical insurance, right? And so you are contemplating, not going to the doctor, or not being able to pay for whatever surgery or procedure. What does anything else matter, right? And so it's got to be that. And I want to make sure that any bill that I'm putting forward in Congress has an economic impact statement. That how is this going to help the economy? How is this going to lower prices? How is it going to help produce jobs, good paying jobs? Like, everything needs to be geared toward that. And if you're not doing that, then it's a waste of time, right? If you're passing these silly resolutions, the Congresswoman loves to pass resolutions every Congress about the horrors of socialism, which I agree. Not a fan of socialism. It's, hurt a lot of people, starved a lot of people back in the home countries that a lot of us can't fled from. Okay, what does that have to do? A resolution, what does that have to do with helping somebody pay their bills today? It is a waste of taxpayer dollars to keep passing these resolutions that don't do anything. So I'm going to make sure we're focused on affordable housing. We need to bring the prices of houses down. My generation, I'm 39. I don't yet have the ability to afford a home. And my parents were able to do it in Hialeah way younger than I was. Like, it's getting later and later. We're putting off all of these things that are financial stability because it's just all out of reach. So we need to be laser focused on the middle class. I say that without any, sort of reservations. I'm not going to Washington to work for billionaires or corporations, right? They're fine. They've worked hard. They should keep a lot of their money, but they need to pay their fair share of taxes, right? That's all it is, that they pay their fair share the same way a secretary or a working class person like my parents, the way that they pay a good chunk of their salary for the government, right? So we need that. We need to give middle class relief to working people, raise the minimum wage, invest in public education, universal pre-K, parental leave, all of those things that a good, smart, functioning society provides for its citizens, so that we can have the opportunity, right? It isn't guaranteed success, but we need the opportunity, right? We need to be able to work hard and advance like my parents did. And so that's what I'll be fighting for most of all.
I'll thank you for answering that question. My next question is about the freedom of speech and our First Amendment rights to do so. And we now we feel like it's under attack. We see Jimmy Kimmel, he just got his show back, but he was suspended. Stephen Colbert was suspended, and so many people have been losing their jobs, and it feels like we're regressing in a way. If elected, what would you do to address that concern, as a congressman, to protect the First Amendment right? And just also to like to know your thoughts on that, just, as well.
Yeah, no, it's a travesty. I mean, this is all because a small man, the president, gets his feelings hurt. Whenever they say bad things about him, he needs to shut down the opposition. That's exactly how dictators operate. And we're talking about our Latino friends in this district, Cubans and Venezuelans. They know a thing or two about dictators, right? They fled dictatorships where people were imprisoning people who thought differently, right? Who had differences of opinions, put in jail, killed, right? So they know a thing or two about political violence. And we're seeing that. We're seeing not only a limit on freedom of speech, we're seeing political violence. This is becoming, this country, more like the countries that, our parents fled from. It's insanity. And so as a congressperson, what you got to do is you got to check the president, right? You got to pass legislation that insulates, right? That this FCC chairman, right? Who out there was talking about Jimmy Kimmel and talking like a mafioso, right? Being like, we're going to do this the hard way or the easy way. That's not the United States of America. Yeah. Like, that's not what we grew up knowing this country was about, right? Freedom of speech it's the First Amendment in the Constitution. It's one of our most sacred values, right? And as people who you guys use the airwaves, right, to get your message out, it must be awful to see that the content of what you say might get you removed. That's scary, unconstitutional. It's illegal. As a lawyer, it's against the law, and we gotta stop this lawless president. So what we can do is, again, if we have a House of Representatives that is majority Democrat, we can absolutely limit the damage that he's doing to our Constitution and to our country.
That's what's up. Thanks for addressing that, because that definitely does affect us specifically in media.
Yeah.
what's going on with Jimmy Kimmel and FCC and the censorship and stuff like that. So I'm glad Janae asked that question because I was curious about it as well. You know what? It's so difficult sometimes because, when we have Democratic candidates on and they talk about, the stuff that the Republicans are doing, no matter who's in power, we're always going to have some level of issues. That it's just the way it is. You know what I mean? No party is perfect by any means. There's going to be things that we don't like about either parties. But what I'm finding is that the whole party stuff I find is using race to divide us even further. You know what I mean? Because it's crazy to me. Like, I may have been a person that, certain things that Trump was doing when he wanted to originally clean up things with immigration, that I'll be like, okay, I don't have an issue with that, and then now or he may take it too far, or now with something else, I'm like, no, I'm not feeling that. But it's almost coming like everybody has to pick a side. And I don't understand that. Like there's stuff that Democrats do, and I'm a registered Dem, that I'm like, I don't like that, or that doesn't make sense, or that's not cool. And there's stuff the Republicans do, I say vice versa. But it seems like the space that we're all in right now is just like, we have to pick a side. Like, how do we get past this? How do we get through? How do we maneuver through this space that we're currently in right now when it comes to politics in America?
I think if you stop seeing politics like a game, if you, number one, don't try to hold on to your seat no matter what, right? Then if you have convictions and actual, you listen, right, to your gut, as opposed to just always poll testing everything and trying to figure out what the majority always wants, right? Because you can't please everybody anyway. And so you end up just hiding, which is what the Congresswoman is doing. And so, look, I think of myself as an independent guy. As I've said, I want to be on the side of working class people, people who are struggling and people who need help, right? I'm good. That's going to be my focus, not what either the Democratic Party wants or the Republican Party wants. It's what my constituents want, right? What they need more clearly. And so I think that's how we do it, right? I want to reach out to NPAs. NPAs are the largest group in my district.
Yes.
In Florida, right? And
for a reason, right, Robin? For a reason.
Yeah,
exactly, because of what you said, right? They're kind of fed up with both the two-party system, right? And what we need is a coalition of people who are pro-democracy, who are pro-rational thinking, right? Who are pro-being reasonable. Right now, we're watching a president who's unreasonable, who's leading us way too much to the fringe. And I want everybody, again, we don't have to agree on everything. You don't have to be, a lockstep person with the Democratic Party. I don't want you to be, and I don't find myself being that either. I want people who just want to work together, who care about actually solving people's problems. That's why I went into public interest and public service. I didn't do it to make any money, because you don't make any money doing this line of work, okay? But I did it because I actually do care about solutions. I don't care about the ego or having congressmen before my name the way apparently this congresswoman does. So that's how we get there. We elect people who are actually going to be focused on the people over their own party.
Love it. Love it. Great
Thank
response.
you for breaking that down, Robin. My next question is, from your perspective, what are the biggest challenges facing Florida District 27 right now that aren't being addressed under the current leadership?
Yeah. And so I think, the fact, again, that people are losing their health care is quite crazy to me, that this is what the government did affirmatively, right? As opposed to getting back to the basics. They got to, the government's getting way too big, right? They want to fit in our doctor's offices and tell us about what medical decisions we can make. They want to ban Tylenol and vaccinations when that used to be for us, between us and our doctor, right? Way too big government to fit in the doctor's room, way too big to fit in our private bedrooms, to fit in the bathroom. They to fit in our schools, telling us what books to read and what not to read. Just stay out of it, right? Let folks, families deal with it on their own, deal with it with their clergy, with their doctors. Like, we don't need the government involved in that. What they need to be involved in is providing a social safety net for folks so that we don't have people who are, so concerned about homelessness. Well, yeah, let's build more houses, right? Let's get more affordable houses out there. If we're so concerned, about, all these things, education. Okay, let's invest in our public schools. That's what the government should be focusing on instead of the petty culture fights and wars that people like Governor DeSantis and President Trump are focusing on, right? And so I think that's the biggest thing that we got to do is just like bread and butter, kitchen table. How can we make your life better? That's what we got to focus on. And we got to go back to do no harm, right? So at the very least, stop taking away our healthcare. At the very least, stop plucking our neighbors off the streets without due process. Like, follow the law, keep us safe from enemies, both foreign and domestic, and help people out. Help people have the opportunity to have a great life here in America. And if we get back to those basics, I think that'll be how we get to going back to representing this community well.
Robin, if people could remember one thing about this interview that you had with us today, what's the one thing that you want to resonate with our audience?
Just how I grew up, because I think that's the biggest, people can talk, can empathize, can say, wow, I really feel for the person who's struggling with their bills. I really feel for people who, are going to public schools that are underrun and don't have money. Like, I went to Barbara Goldman Senior High School. It was a D school. It was overcrowded. There were 5,000 kids, 1,000 kids in my senior class. And I worked hard so that I could be valedictorian of that school.
Wow.
And, in Hialeah, there aren't a lot of Black kids, who go there, right? Who go into that school. And I was able to work hard and graduate as number one. And so what I want people to focus on is I've lived the struggle, right? I know what it means to be in an underfunded public school. And so elect people who have that experience, right? Let's not look past them at people who just talk the talk, but people who have walked the walk, because they will always remember who the government should focus on because they have lived that experience.
Love it. And my last question also too, what is the mascot over there at Barbara Goldman? I was going to ask you what high school you went to.
The Gators.
We go up for high schools in Miami.
That's right. Goldman Gators. We had the FSU colors and then the UF mascot. That was the compromise.
Gotcha. Okay, shout out to Barbara Goldman in the building.
For real. We don't often get that school to shout out.
I know, right? Ever.
That's cool.
I know. I don't. We don't really rate y'all, but shout out to Goldman. But anyway,
I can't with you today.
My last
man's right there. You're like, we don't rate your school.
You know how we do it. It's always school rivalry. I went to Carroll State in the West, so we don't always brag big. But my last question, Robin, is your final message to the people of Florida District 27 as they prepare for the 2026 election. Like, just your final thoughts and what you would like, to leave our audience with.
Yeah, get excited, get involved, okay? Like, we can't get jaded. We can't let our country fall into authoritarianism. We got to fight for it. I'm willing to fight for it. And so if you're willing to join me and help out the team, I'm about, 6 days away from the end of my first quarter. So I'm still receiving donations. Any little bit help counts, because I want people to, at the end of the quarter, to say, wow, this campaign, this area, Miami, that's where change is coming. So join us.
On behalf of Just Vote Period, can you please tell our audience when your election is?
August of 2026 is going to be the primary, okay? And then November of 2026 is going to be the general election.
Wow, you're starting early.
So
I love that. And
yeah, I'm getting out there early.
A lot of ground to cover, man.
Yeah, please make sure High Low News is added to your media contact list. Your team, they connected with Derica, who's also our managing editor over there at High Low News. So we're going to make sure that we're, alerting our audience as well on what's going on with your campaign and any news and alerts that you have for the community.
Will do. I'm friends with the program now, so we're gonna.
Yes.
Good.
Look, I gotta give it to you, Robin, because a lot of people don't like to step in this hot seat. It's live. Me and PK, we gonna say what we thinking, and so I really, really loved your energy. You're authentic. You feel like a bridge. Like, I feel like you're kind of what we need right now, especially in South Florida and Miami-Dade politics and just the Democratic Party in Florida. So kudos to you.
Yeah, all the good stuff Robert Dempster said about you is that and more. So
thank you guys.
This was a pleasure. Thank you.
Come back next Yeah, give us some
next
follow-up.
cycle.
Yes,
I'll be back here. Whenever you'll have me, I'll be here.
All right. Robin Peguero.
Give him some applause in the chat, y'all. Give him some energy. He held it down. He did.
He definitely did.
Some of the questions weren't on the run the show, so he was like answering them live. Like, you gotta be good to come on here.
For real. Well, listen, thank you once again for your time, man, and we'll definitely get back in touch with you. We have this show run concurrent with the election, so after we do this series, it goes right up until election time in November now, though it's just this dealing with the city of Miami election for the most part. And then we go in hiatus until 8 weeks before the primary. So we'll circle back and see how you're doing and talk to you again. I'm sure you got a lot to tell us by then.
Yeah.
Take care, Robin.
Already, bye.
All the best. Yes.
Robin was a trooper. I love it. He was ready for us, but you could tell he's an attorney, and you can tell he's a Miami boy.
You can tell you're a prosecutor.
Exactly. He attorney and from Miami. He was like, "Girl, what you wanna ask me? I got you. I ain't scared." I love it.
Yeah. He was on it, man. He was on it. Definitely. Shout out to our audience, man.
Yeah.
Everyone tapping in. Y'all was super active. Vibing with us. So we really appreciate it because we do get a lot of energy from the comments. Real quick, I forgot to mention, JT, if everybody's still on right now, please make sure you subscribe. We are so close. So, to that tipping point. So please subscribe and like and share and all that good stuff. Although we're about to wrap it up now, this will still live on YouTube. So you can still share the link and people can watch it when they have the opportunity. And also, please make sure you follow us at That Part Podcast so you can see the guests that we'll be having prior. All right. So on Instagram, we'll, always shoot that out. But if you follow either one of us, you'll get that as well. But this was great. It
was.
We
with people who live in his district. You heard the neighborhoods: Coconut Grove, Cutler Bay. What was that? What Kendall?
West Kendall,
all the rich areas. If you know people over there, that's what
Pinecrest, Coral Gables
said in the chat. She was like, "They got money out there."
Yeah.
Yes,
they sure do.
Y'all share it with them. It's still a few Black people left in Coconut Grove. Y'all go share it with them too.
I know, man. If y'all would learn the history of Coconut Grove, you'd be so surprised.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, the stories there, the history there is amazing. So shout out to Robin, and y'all share that with them next time. What it is, Democratic agenda for Okay.
Next time, ask what's the Democratic agenda. All right, there you go, Kane. We see you.
That's the next conversation we gotta have. Yeah,
believe that. Talking about next conversation. Our next interview is gonna be pretty good.
Should we pre them or I think we should pre them.
Yeah, let's pre them. Why not? Why not? Yeah. I'm gonna let you handle this, JT.
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, you do so good with the announcement.
The initials JT is real hot in these streets right now. Because JT from the City Girls is going head up with Cardi B.
Yeah.
So
I don't even know what side to be on with that because I love them both.
Yeah,
but
I know those distractions are crazy, but let's get back to the real stuff.
But
ain't nothing but distractions.
Look, yes, JT coming. JT is coming. And look, y'all got to make sure y'all come back next week. We have a special guest, Mayor Daniela Levine Cava. And y'all know everything that's going on with the budget and the things that's going on in the city and with the county. And she's going to be coming on answering questions. So y'all don't want to miss this one. It's going to be a good one. And Mayor Cava, she always keeps it real. I always like our interviews. She doesn't shy away from the questions as well. So y'all make sure y'all tune in, tell a friend, y'all, and also too DM us if y'all have some questions y'all want us to ask them.
Great
idea. This interactive. Y'all DM us on Instagram if there's something that you burning questions, especially about this budget and the future of Miami-Dade County, things that you want to ask Mayor Daniela Levine Cava. Slide in our DMs and let us know because we'll definitely ask her those because we're other people. This is our show. But it's going to be a good conversation, and definitely grateful for her coming on to, break down what's going on with the county and what's, the new budget is adopted. So I want to know the breakdown of all of that and, her views. And she's been taking some hits in the media too. Like she been on the ropes. She been swinging back, but they been getting us. So I want to know all of this. We're gonna be asking her all those questions.
She has a list of stuff that she was able to pull off. So I can't wait to hear about that and have her talk about that as well. Big shout out to everybody on my Instagram live right now. I don't mean to ignore y'all. I just don't have it in front of me, but I've been on Instagram live for those who just scrolling through Instagram and want to catch the conversation. So shout out to everybody on that IG live. What they do though? So should we let them go in their bed early tonight? Semi-early?
I mean, what time we could. We've been doing really good. I feel like it's been quality conversations, and we've been getting in and out. It's still so. When they run over and we need to, we can. And when we get a chance to leave early, let the church go home early. We don't gotta hold them up in here.
That part. That part. Shout out to Timeless checking in. I see you. Yeah, man. Thank you, everybody. So many people in the chat room.
Yeah, tonight was a good show.
Yeah, good vibes, man. We really, really appreciate you. Romeo, what's up, man? Romeo be hooking us up, man.
Oh, yeah, photographer. Shout out Romeo.
Video photographer. He shot the interview I did with
Tyler, right?
Tyler, exactly. Mm-hmm. Remember that? Yeah. So shout out to him. We appreciate you. Davika, what's up? Jasmine, what's good?
Hey, Jess.
That's what's up. All right, y'all. Angel Diaz, what's up? NMB in the house. I see you. Isis, Icy Poo.
That's what that was?
Yeah.
Put NMB in the chat.
Happy pre-birthday, Isis.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Isis. Her B-day's coming up. Yep.
That mean you finna spend some money. You finna you gotta spend some money. You gotta spend some coins on my good girl, on my good sis.
Gosh, here we go. Thanks, Shanae.
That's what dads are for.
I know. Mama Tate, what's up? She said, yep. Look, she co-signed it. Oh, gosh.
Hey, Mom. What's up, y'all? What's up, Tontis? I saw Lex in the building. We doing our little shout out right now since y'all in the comments.
Tammy.
Oh, Tam Bam. What's up, Tammy?
And our Mama amazing producer. Yeah, my mom is in here too. Our amazing producer as well.
Auntie Lori. Hey, Auntie.
Yes, Auntie Lori, big up yourself. All right, we're going to let y'all go. Thank you so much. Don't forget to share, subscribe, like, all that good stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Derica. Great show.